The vehicle is driving down the road when it suddenly crashes into another car up ahead. The impact sends the other vehicle rolling several times, and the person inside appears to be dead. 2 days earlier, one business deal was about to set everything in motion. Cole Reed walked through the KMG Bangkok lobby like he was still on active duty. Beside him, the buyer, Tibwa Kempelo, stopped to admire the ship models. The buyer assured Tibwa that he would take good care of the company. Tibwa believed him, but that trust would eventually cost him everything. He told both men that the deal would officially be completed in a week. That evening, Tibwa and Cole played chess in the study. As they played, the older man treated Cole like a son. Cole admitted that he missed being in the action, but he didn't miss all the politics that came with it. He said he had burned some important bridges and had paid the price for it. The following night, everyone gathered for the celebration party. Tibwa took the microphone and gave a speech about choosing ethics over profit. With a confident smile, he proudly claimed that KMG had the cleanest record on the high seas. During the party, Cole noticed a stranger in the crowd, an exporter named Danilis, watching everything closely. Then Tibwa surprised Cole with a gold Rolex engraved with a special date. Meanwhile, Danila quietly slipped away from the party and made a phone call. He told the person on the other end that the sale would be dead before the night was over. Later, while they were riding in the car, Tibwa finally admitted that he never wanted to sell the company in the first place. He had only agreed to the deal because of Cameron. KMG had always been his dream, he explained, not something he wanted to pass down to his sons. Suddenly, Cole spotted a roadblock ahead. He immediately realized that something wasn't right. He shouted at Tibwa to get down, but before they could react, gunfire ripped through the car window. Tibwa was hit. Cole quickly got out of the vehicle and managed to take down one of the attackers. But Tibwa was already badly wounded. Lying in the back seat, he struggled to breathe and knew he wasn't going to survive. With his final strength, Tibwa begged Cole to take care of Cameron. Cole promised that he would. Moments later, Tibwa stopped moving. Cole then called the mansion and delivered the devastating news: Tibwa was dead. Cole was warned that the police were involved and couldn't be trusted. He took the dead attacker's American passport and had one of his men run the information. The identity came back as Jonathan Rogers, a former KMG crewman. Rogers was scheduled to board the Artemis in just 2 hours. Cole immediately said he was heading to the port. Meanwhile, across the city, Danilis received the news that Kempelo was dead. But there was one major problem: Cole Reed had survived. Danilis ordered the police to find Cole and shoot him on sight. By morning, the news had already branded Cole Reed as the Bangkok killer. With Danilis controlling the police, Cole had nothing except the dead man's passport. Elsewhere, a blonde woman saw the news report and froze when she heard Cole's name. Before she could even process what had happened, her phone rang. The person on the other end reminded her that she was still on probation and ordered her to report to the Artemis within the hour. If she didn't, KMG would fire her. With no choice, Angie Ellis agreed to show up. Cole, meanwhile, searched through his bag with his injured hand. He put on a cap to hide his face and make it harder for the cameras to identify him. At the same time, Cameron sat alone in a bar, completely devastated by Tibwa's death. Using Jonathan Rogers' identity, Cole reached the port checkpoint. A green confirmation appeared, and the guard waved him through. Waiting ahead was the Artemis, sitting dark and massive in the water. Using the dead crewman's identity and badge, Cole boarded the ship, knowing that once he was on it, getting off wouldn't be easy. On the bridge, Captain Marco Madsen was already watching the news. The report described the shooting as a kidnapping attempt and identified Cole Reed as the suspect. Not long after, Angie arrived on the bridge. Marco immediately told her that he didn't need another third mate. Angie explained that the company had sent her to replace a crewman who was sick. Rather than argue with KMG, Marco reluctantly allowed her to stay. Marco then ordered one of the crewmen to take her to her cabin and keep an eye on her. The Artemis soon left the dock and headed into open water. Down in the dark cargo hold, Cole forced open a container door. As the light came in, he discovered several frightened families hiding inside. Meanwhile, Angie discovered another container and opened it herself. More terrified people began coming out into the dark hallway. A crewman noticed Angie and quickly followed her. He dragged her into a cabin and demanded to know what she was doing. Angie tried to explain herself, but the man had already called for help over the radio. At the same time, a gunman cornered the migrants and raised his weapon. Cole stepped out and deliberately drew the man's attention away from them. The two men then fought brutally in the cramped space between the containers. Cole managed to take the attacker down, but more crewmen were already coming after him. Meanwhile, Cole went onto the open deck and began helping the survivors. He guided the migrants toward a red lifeboat, making sure each family got inside safely. Angie ran from the bridge while holding her injured shoulder. Below deck, the migrants worked together to lower the lifeboat into the water. At the same time, Commander Spencer's destroyer was already heading toward the Artemis. An officer handed Spencer a report, and his expression immediately changed. He understood what was really happening aboard the ship before he even finished reading it. Marco heard Spencer's transmission and immediately became tense. He told the Navy that everything was under control and apologized for the distress call. Spencer politely accepted his explanation and said he was glad everyone was safe. Elsewhere, Cole suddenly stepped out of the shadows with his gun raised. He grabbed Angie from behind and covered her mouth so she wouldn't make a sound. Once they reached the workshop, Angie demanded to know who he really was. Cole explained that there were innocent people trapped in the cargo hold who needed to be rescued. Angie argued that the crew wouldn't simply kill the migrants because they were valuable. Then she showed Cole the bullet wound in her shoulder. Alone in his office, Marco picked up his phone and made a call. He told the person on the other end that they had a serious problem on the ship. Angie then admitted that she had seen Cole's face on the news. He confirmed that his name was Cole Reed, and she finally introduced herself. Cole knew they needed a distraction first. He used a lighter to set some cardboard inside a red container on fire. The crew noticed the fire and immediately sealed off the area. Over the radio, they reported that it was a deliberate distraction. Cole made it to the bridge and quickly knocked the lookout to the floor. Angie grabbed the radio and began sending a mayday across every channel. She identified the ship as the Artemis and kept transmitting, hoping someone would hear them. Angie reported their exact position and revealed that the Artemis was being used for human trafficking. He immediately ordered his ship to change course. Meanwhile, Marco gathered his men on the bridge and changed the plan. He revealed that Cole Reed wasn't a stowaway at all. He was Kempelo's bodyguard. At the same time, Danilis saw the news that KMG's sale had been stopped and that Cameron Kempelo had been named interim CEO. Marco told Danilis that the kill team had failed to eliminate Cole. Danilis ordered Marco to stop Cole from interfering with the transfer and kill him. He made it clear that Cole Reed could not be allowed to leave the ship alive. Cole overheard enough of the conversation to understand what Danilis was planning. Angie warned Cole that someone was coming. Cole was pulling a man through a ventilation shaft when a guard suddenly caught Angie on the walkway and dragged her down. Marco's men opened fire into the shaft, claiming they might have hit Cole. Marco then took Angie to the bridge and kept her there as leverage. Spencer didn't wait any longer. He ordered the assault team to launch. Inside the containers, the trapped families remained huddled together in the darkness, with nowhere to escape. Outside, a small armed boat was already approaching the Artemis from the open ocean. Danilis called from his car to confirm that the money had been transferred. Marco confirmed the payment and assured him that the problem aboard the ship would be taken care of. The buyers finally boarded the Artemis and spread across the deck. Their leader told Marco that he had noticed smoke coming from the ship. Marco coldly told him that whatever happened aboard his ship was none of the buyers' concern. They agreed to inspect the cargo, and the handover began. Marco then introduced his crew to the buyers, trying to make everything look completely under control. He promised that he would deal with the stowaway and make sure the transaction went smoothly. But before Marco could finish, Cole shot one of the buyers. Marco immediately blamed the gunshot on the stowaway so he wouldn't lose control of the situation. He sent his men below to hunt Cole down and ordered Tio back to the bridge. Meanwhile, Angie fought back against the man Marco had sent to execute her. Cole fought his way through the stairwell, taking down every man Marco sent after him. Marco slowly walked down the stairs toward him, believing the fight was finally over. But Cole refused to stay down. He ripped a fire axe from the wall and used it to fight back. The two men crashed into each other on the outer deck, fighting over the axe. Marco pulled a knife from his boot and gained the advantage. They traded brutal blows along the gangway, neither man willing to back down. Cole drove the hook into Marco, sending him crashing onto the deck. He pinned Marco down and finally said the name he had been carrying with him ever since Bangkok. That was the last thing Marco ever heard. Cole collapsed onto the deck, bleeding and completely exhausted. After everything he had been through, his promise to Tibua was almost fulfilled. Then Navy soldiers surrounded him with their rifles raised and ordered him to get on his knees. She identified herself to the boarding team and immediately told them that Cole had saved everyone aboard the ship. A soldier pointed at the man kneeling on the deck and asked if he was Cole Reed. She warned Cole that returning to Bangkok would be extremely dangerous. But Cole told her that he had to finish what started the night Tibua was killed. Later, Cole secretly climbed into a car beside Cameron at his father's grave. Cameron admitted that he had originally rented the ships because he believed they were only being used to transport cargo. But eventually, the people behind the operation stopped asking and started threatening him. He couldn't get out. Cameron thought selling the company would finally make the problem disappear. Cole quietly told him that his decision had ultimately gotten his own father killed. As they left, a truck suddenly slammed into Danilis's SUV, sending it crashing and flipping over in the road. Cole pulled Danilis from the wreckage and grabbed him by the collar. Danilis finally confessed everything without trying to hide it. Tibua had to die. His son had been compromised. And the business simply had to continue. Danilis desperately offered Cole anything he wanted in exchange for his life. Cole looked down at the man who had ordered the entire operation and asked himself what he wanted more than justice. His answer was simple: vengeance. At this point, Cole isn't fighting just to survive anymore, he's fighting to finish what Tibua started. What makes this part so intense is that every person on the ship has something to lose. Angie is risking everything to save innocent families, while Cole is slowly becoming the only person standing between them and the people running the entire operation. And even after being shot, Cole refuses to stay down. But the biggest twist is Cameron. He thought selling the company would protect everyone, but his decision ended up putting his own father in the crosshairs. And when Cole finally confronts Danilis, it becomes clear this was never about money. It was personal from the very beginning.